here. So I thought today we would work a little bit more with the hips. I know we did some the other day. In my opinion, it's probably very difficult to overdo trying to open the hips, and there are a few things that sort of let us know kind of the health and mobility of our hips more than working with squats or different squatting positions. In yoga, there's a couple different options. So I thought we would just sort of prep the legs and hips for that and see sort of what happens. So in terms of props, for sure, grab a blanket. If you don't have a yoga blanket, some sort of thick blanket will do. We can make it work. You could also use your yoga mat instead of a blanket for what we are going to need. And then if you have blocks and a strap, grab them, but we can definitely do this without. Cool? All right, so let's start on our backs. And just lie down with your knees bent. And just take a few breaths here so you find a little bit of settling. And then interlace your hands and pull your right knee into your chest. Straighten your left leg. And for now, make your left leg really active. And I'm just going to kind of pull my right knee out to the side, in toward the midline, kind of circle it around. You can even hook your elbow outside the knee. Just kind of get into the hip flexors here, hip crease. See what you're dealing with, right? Sometimes morning practice, I know I'm a little more stiff, depending what time you're doing this. Just be kind to yourself. A couple more breaths here. And then swap sides. So straighten your right leg. Pull your left knee in and do some movement. Left knee out and in. Remember, right leg, try to keep it pretty active. That'll just help give space in the front of this hip. You can hook your elbow around the left knee. Couple more breaths. Great, pull both knees into your chest. So next up we're going to do what's called a happy baby pose. I'm sure some of you are familiar. If not, literally, it's called happy baby. My kids both, when they were babies, this was like their yoga pose of choice. So you're going to hold the outer feet with your hands or outer heels. Separate your legs, and then it's hard for it to see, but I'm literally like pulling my knee right towards my armpits. And you can see my knees are right underneath my heels. That's what I'm going for. Some of you are going to struggle with that. And if the feet feel far away, this is where you would hook a strap around your feet to hold on. But if you can, hold on to the feet and just maybe find a little bit of movement side to side. You're going to pull with the arms a bit. So give the low back a stretch as well. Keep your right leg in happy baby. Put your left foot on the floor. And then you can interlace both hands around the right foot and really pull with your arms, knee towards armpit. Again, strap or towel or something around the foot if you're not able to hold on. Now, if this is like, holy crap, this is like the hardest thing I've done, then just stay with it. But those of you that have the space are going to start to straighten this left leg. And it's going to be harder than it looks to straighten. Some of you are not going to be able to fully straighten that left leg, but I'm going to work my hardest to push the back of the left leg down, pull with my arm. So it looks like a lunge upside down. It's actually quite tough. So push left leg down, make it as straight as you can, and breathe. Notice that you're probably tipping to the right. So firm your left leg, pull your belly more to the left. Good. And release. Put your right foot on the floor, left leg, both hands on the foot, happy baby. So just pull here. Again, you might want to stay with this, especially if it's a lot, or if you have a strap. But then any amount you can, scrape that right heel on the mat, firm up your right leg and straighten it. Again, your inability to straighten this leg just probably depends how tight your hip flexors are. So no worries if you can't fully straighten. You gotta really firm up right leg and you gotta pull a lot with your arms. And just try to breathe like it ain't no thing. Last 2 breaths. One more breath. Good. So come to hands and knees. Set your hands up at the top of your mat. Really spread your fingers wide and then press back, downward facing dog. So take some breaths here. If you need to move one leg at a time, bend and extend. Wiggle the hips out. Great, kind of do what feels good here. And then widen your feet as wide as your mat. So it's like a wide-legged down dog. And then widen your hands and turn your fingers out and curl your fingers around the sides of your mat. So you've got wide arms, wide legs. And then pull the mat towards the wall in front of you and push your thighs back and lift your hips up. Awesome. Walk your hands back. Keep your feet wide and walk your hands back to your feet. So I'm in a forward fold at the back of the mat. My feet are as wide as my hips, or as wide as my mat, rather, sorry. And just fold forward. So you can walk your hands between your feet. Now bend your knees. Those of you with tight hamstrings, don't feel bad about bending your knees. Do whatever you've got to do to get your fingertips or palms to the floor. And then relax your head and slowly begin to straighten your legs. Imagine you could pull the mat apart with your feet. So isometrically abduct your thighs. Means move them apart from each other without actually moving your feet. So we're going to do different squats many times. So this will be our first one. Don't feel bad if it's like a lot happening, and hopefully they'll get a little bit easier as we open up. So walk your hands forward. Then you're going to turn your toes out like 45 degrees. I'll show from the front here. Turn your toes out no more than 45 degrees, and then drop your hips and sit low. So this is our wide malasana squat. Elbows inside of knees, palms together. So some of you with tight ankles and calves, your heels might be hovering off the floor. That's okay. Just do your best. As long as your knees aren't in pain, you should be good. And then you're going to use your elbows to push your knees open, kind of like you were prying the legs open, and then bring your hands together and try to sit up tall. So push knees open, drop your hips, lift up long. And you can a little bit squeeze knees into elbows, but more than that, push your elbows out into the knees. So you can look and you really want your knees to track over your toes, yeah? Take one more big breath. Put your hands down, turn your toes straight ahead, fold forward. And then come all the way up to stand. All right, so come to the top of your mat with your feet hip-width distance apart. We're going to do some lunging. So hands to hips, fold forward. Bend your knees, put your fingertips down, and just stretch your left leg way back. So you're going to lunge here. Right leg is in front, and then lower left knee to the floor. So just kind of pause here. You can drape your right arm over the thigh. You just really want to sink the hips, but stay nice and long in the spine. You've got the option here to take this a little deeper. As long as your front knee feels safe, you can let that knee come a little bit over the toes. This allows the shin to be at an angle and your calves to get more of a stretch. So you just kind of let the knee come forward. If it feels okay, walk your hands forward and just breathe. Again, you're trying to press the right heel down. May or may not actually touch the floor, but you're stretching back a calf, Achilles tendon, ankle, heel, as well as getting a little space in the front of the left hip. Take like 2 more big breaths. And walk your hands back. Lift your back knee. Step the left foot forward. Knees are soft. Hands in front of you. Step the right leg back. So lunge side 2. Drop your right knee. So we'll start with left knee on top of heel. Just kind of hang in here. Drop the hips. Sort of see what's happening. You can see I have a little bit of movement. Nothing crazy. And then as long as it feels painful in the knee, you can let the knee come forward of the toes. I like to come to the top of my back foot. Walk your hands forward. Notice my left arm is sort of helping rein my left knee in. That helps me sort of stabilize. And then just breathe here. Again, try to press left heel down. Breathe. Good, you guys. One more big breath. Walk yourself back. This time, lift your right knee and step back to down dog. Spread your fingers, push the mat away, firm your arms and legs. And then once again, step your feet as wide as your mat. Wide dog, walk your hands back to your feet. So we're going to repeat that squat, but potentially it'll feel different after the lunges. Turn your toes out no more than 45 degrees. Bend your knees, sit low. Here's my squat from the side. So you can see my spine is long. I'm not rounded forward yet. So elbows pry or push the knees open. Palms together, breathe. Good. Take another breath. Hands down, hips up, turn your toes straight ahead. Crawl back to the top of your mat. Wide dog, regular dog. Pick a dog, any dog. Breathe. Good. So, if you've got a block, you can grab one. Again, you don't necessarily need it. It's just helpful. And then come to stand. So you're going to step your legs wide. A good way to know how wide, as you can see, this is wider than your average stance. If you stretch your arms out to the side, your wrists should be in line with your heels. That's pretty wide. Hands to hips. And then turn your right toes all the way to the right. Turn your left toes in. And bend your right knee to a square. So see, my thigh is parallel to the floor. So you try for that. And my knee is tracking over the toes. Make a little blade with your right arm. Put it inside your knee. And push your right knee to the right. So again, you're trying to track your knee over third and fourth toe, not so much your big toe. And then lean to the right. This is where you might need a block, or you put your hand on the floor. Let's go inside the foot. Left hand can stay on your hip. And like before, use your right arm to pry the right knee to the right, and then hook your left shoulder back and breathe. So it's a side angle variation. Take another breath. And then come up. Turn your right toes in. Turn your left toes to the left. Again, bend your left knee, get low. Make your left arm blade, put it inside your knee, and press the knee open. Shift your block to the left, put it inside your left foot, right hand at hip. Same thing, use your left arm to push left knee toward the wall behind you or to the left, and then roll your right shoulder back. Take a couple of breaths. Yep, one more breath. Great, come up. Lose your block. Come have a seat. So, blanket is where you need some sort of blanket. If you don't have a blanket, you could roll up your yoga mat and do this. But you're gonna unfold your blanket so it looks like this. And then from the top folded end, you're gonna start to roll your blanket up tightly. So you end up with a pretty tight blanket roll. Like so, yeah? And then I'll show from the side for a second, but you're gonna put the blanket all the way behind your knees, hold it there, and then come back and have a seat. It's actually oddly challenging. So then you sit upright, and it's a little bit of myofascial release technique where I'm trying to soften my hips, right now I feel the blanket digging into my calves, some of my hamstrings. So I'm trying to relax those muscles so that the blanket can kind of appropriately mash. Because the more space we have in the back of the leg, calves especially, ankles, the more doable it is for us to do certain squats, because there's that ankle flexion that's required in squatting, and that's honestly what trips people up, where we're often really tight. So if we can kind of open that as well as get some hip mobility, we'll be in better shape for squatting. So just take a few breaths. I'm just trying to not lose my mind, right? Just try to breathe calmly. And I know there's maybe some of you, like myself, that do other sort of forms of exercise besides yoga. My background comes from sports and dance. I've always been really active, and so yoga has sort of been the missing piece. And I see it all the time when I'm at the gym lifting weights. Like, people think, oh, I'm a weightlifter. I'm a cyclist. Like, I don't need that mobility. And I'm here to say, deep squats in yoga equals better squat form at the gym. Promise. So it's only going to help. Go ahead and lift your hips. Move your blanket roll back just a few inches so you end up in the middle of your calf. Again, I'm just trying to rest hips down, and instead of hardening like what my muscles want to do when I feel the blanket dig in, I'm trying to soften. It's kind of like getting a massage when they dig into a tight spot, and your first instinct is to like tighten up, clench up, and really what you're trying to do is soften and allow. So just take a few breaths. Then lift your hips again, move the blanket roll back another couple inches so you're not quite to your heels yet. Last piece of the puzzle will be blanket just above heels. One more spot to go. So again, soften, settle. I sometimes even like to lean to one side, really dig into that calf, that Achilles, and also switch to the other side. You'll notice one side's tighter. I'm quite certain of that. So if you find a tighter side, here's mine, and I might stay there for a few extra moments to really get in. I should mention, if you don't have a yoga blanket, a yoga mat's probably better than like a soft blanket. You want something that's gonna feel like something, but make do. And then go ahead and move it back, last but not least, just above your heels. A few more breaths, really drop the hips. I can feel my hips now touching my heels, so you might get there, maybe. Last big breath. All right, y'all. So keep your blanket or your yoga mat rolled up. Put it at the top of your mat like this. And this is where you might want to have blocks handy if you've got them. We'll see how it goes. So now you're going to step up onto the blanket roll. This is key. Watch. My heels are going to come to the floor. But notice how the ball mounds around the blanket, but you guys see my toes are lifted. It's hard to see, but that's what you want. Heels on the floor, toes lifted. So if your toes are death gripping the blanket, you gotta step up higher. It's a big calf stretch. And then I'm gonna get my fingers to the floor. You could go blanket, but this is where you might be blocked, some of you with tight hamstrings. I'm trying to go for straight legs, firm up your thighs, and then try to fold in. This is gonna considerably change the sensation. Lift your toes, pull your kneecaps up and squeeze your legs. Try to dig your heels straight down into the mat. Yeah. Bring your hands to your blanket, lift up. Bend your knees a little, and then just like before, step your left leg back. So here we are in a lunge, except now my front foot's at an angle. Toes up, heel down, and then lower your left knee. So I'm still going for knee on top of heel. Just try to sink into the hips, and really, like, I can't call you guys out, right, from the YouTubes, but you try to lift your toes and be honest if you're like gripping with your toes. This is not really stretching your calf in the same way. Take another breath here in this lunge. And then lift your left knee, spin your left heel down. I've got heel to arch alignment Put your right hand inside of the foot, just like before. Push your right knee back, left hand to hip. Here's that side angle again, but now my foot's at an angle. Breathe. Great. Hands down, back heel up. Step up onto the blanket. I've got to adjust my feet, so step up higher. Straighten legs, fold forward. Bend your knees a little. This time step your right leg back. Here's our lunge. And lower your right knee. So sink your hips, lift your toes, and breathe. It's a lot. If you've got tightness in the calves, hips, legs, it's gonna feel intense, so like welcome to yoga, y'all. Sometimes this is some hard stuff. One more big breath, and then lift your back knee, spin your back heel down, heel, front heel, back arch alignment. Put your left hand inside of the foot, right hand to hip, and roll open. And then it's harder for you to see, but I'm pushing my left knee towards the camera as I open the chest. One more breath. Look down, back heel up. Last but not least, step your back foot forward. Step up tall on the blanket. Final go, straight legs, hands to the floor or to blocks, fold. Spike your heels into the mat. Come off. Have a seat. How's it going? So, unroll your blanket. And then I'm going to have you fold it in half twice. Now, there's some of you, this is going to be too big of a fold, so you'd unfold it one time. Some of you are going to need a bigger fold, depending how tight your ankles and calves are, so you might need to fold it again. But let's start with that. Put that on your mat. And then you're going to step up, so your heels are on the blanket and your toes are on the floor this time. So it's different than what we just did. Heels on blanket, toes on floor. This time I'm going feet together. Heels on blanket, toes on floor. And then I'm going to get low. My legs stay together in this kind of squat. So I'm going for my heels to actually be on the blanket. So if you need a taller blanket, make that happen. And if you need less of a blanket, if you've got really open heels, you can unfold it. But you want your heels touching something. Open your knees. Keep your heels touching the blanket. Bring your hands inside your knees. This is called a malasana squat. This is more traditional yoga squat. And then try to hug your knees in. So notice how my knees have to go wide, and then I hug them in. I can get my forearms down, so you're trying to go kind of low here, but hug your knees in. So you can see from the side, now my back is rounded a little bit. So I'm really low, knees hug in. I'm gonna puff up my spine, but it's not rounded because my posture just suddenly got crappy. It's from lift of belly. So you really want to tone the belly to the spine. Just take a few breaths. Hug your knees in, so inner thighs are still active. And then take your blanket out. Downward facing dog. Stretch your legs. Let's do one more squat position. Walk your feet halfway to your hands. Bring your feet all the way together. Walk your hands back. So now I'm losing the blanket. So more than likely, most of you are going to have your heels at least a little bit off the floor. That's fine. Yeah? Some of you with open ankles and heels, you might get heels to the floor. That's also fine. So feet together. Drop your knees together. So you guys can see my heels are a few inches off the floor. I'm going to keep moving them down, but it's fine if they're off the floor. Same squat. Open your knees. Get your torso low. And now I'm really going to try to push my hands this way to walk, or to push rather my heels down. Hug your knees in. You can stay here. It's a big stretch. You got to push your inner feet down, or flip your palms up. Palms up. I'm going to thread my right arm in front of my right shin, palm face up, and do the same with my left. So I've given myself kickstand arms. And then I reach my head towards the floor. It might touch it, it probably won't. And then if I shift back, now my heels are down. And then if I shift forward, Now my head's closer to the floor, and you kind of toggle, teeter-totter, hug your knees in. You've got a good view of your feet there, so push your inner feet down and breathe. If at any time you're like, this is way too much, you can sort of back out any step along the way. Last couple of breaths. Downward dog. Good. Lower your knees. Have your knees wide. Press back, child's pose. Soften your elbows. Take a couple of breaths. Come on up. Grab a block if you have it. You can also use your blanket if that's all you've got. You're going to lie back and put this flat block underneath your pelvis. So if you did my other hip video, you know I'm a fan of this. This is a really great way to neutralize pelvis again. But you could put a blanket underneath your hips too. My feet are wide, so have your feet wide. And then as I start to straighten my legs are going to go even wider than my mat. And then I kind of wiggle waggle the block towards my heels to lengthen out the spine. Soft arms overhead. Chill. If this is too much or if this doesn't feel good, then bend your knees. That's going to lessen the pull on the low back, so go for comfort at this point. And just take a few breaths, opening fronts of hips after all of the hip flexor compression to do our squats, our malasana variations. And the beauty of being able to do those squats, it lends its way to doing tons of other big yoga poses, which we're not going to get to today. You take that squat right to crow pose. There's several other arm balances you'd be pretty prepped for. So our ability to squat not only makes our hips more comfortable, but it allows us to do bigger yoga poses if we want. So stay here as long as you need. You can hit pause if you need to. A few more breaths. Bend your knees if they're not already. Lift your hips, take the block out, and make your way up to sit. The other beauty of doing all that hip work is you're more prepared to sit comfortably. So you're super juiced if you want to do seated meditation practice, or just go about your day, or if you have to go sit down and get back to work. Your hips are more prepped, it's just more comfortable, so then you're not sitting there like, my hips. So hope you guys found that helpful. Possibilities are endless with the squats, so let me know if you have questions of other things you want to see. Otherwise, have a great day. See you guys soon.